Hey everyone, this is Susan at EVPL Red Bank, and today I'm going to show you how to do some basic sewing stitches. So I'm going to show you the running stitch, the whip stitch, the back stitch, and the blanket stitch. So every sewing starts with needle and thread. If you don't have a needle, you can try poking holes or cutting holes with either a pin, a sharp bobby pin, scissors, anything like that, and stiffening the end of your thread with nail polish, hairspray, anything that's going to make it a little bit easier to stick through the punctures. And if you don't have thread, you could try replacing it with something like dental floss, preferably wax dental floss, or embroidery floss, any kind of thin string that you have on hand that would fit with your needle if you have a needle. And so let's get started. On one end of your thread, you are going to make a knot, and on the other thread, you're obviously going to thread your needle. The way that I like to do it is I pinch with my finger so that it's only a little bit of a dot, and then I like to take my needle and wiggle the eye a little just to make sure that it goes all the way through, leave a little bit of extra. So we're going to start with this running stitch. That's the dotted line here. And the way that you would do this is you would go up and then back down. And now most stitching is just going to go up and down. The only difference with the running stitch, which is one of the easiest stitches, is you're going to give a little bit of space between the end of your stitch and your next stitch. So let's try. We're going to go up and then back down. And as you make that progress, it's going to make more of a dotted line. And you can use this for seams, you can use this for embroidery. As you notice, it will be a dotted line. And it should be able to stay fairly strong. It's very fast, it's very easy because it's the same 2 steps over and over. Now, if you want to do the back stitch is kind of a cousin to running stitch. They're very similar. The only difference is the running stitch, you always go forward, and the back stitch, you obviously go backward. And the back stitch is also going to end up making a stronger seam, or if you're embroidering, it's going to make a straight line. So how you would do this, like with the running stitch, you would take room from the last stitch and make a little gap there when you go up. Only instead of going forward like the running stitch, you're going to go backward. And that's going to solidify that dotted line. And as you're doing this, you're obviously going to be making twice as much stitches. And so that might take twice as much time, but it will also make it twice as strong. And this is really good for, again, for seaming or for embroidery, depending on if you want to go for something that just looks pretty or if you want to really reinforce a piece of clothing that may have gotten ripped or torn or the seam may have frayed. And that's going to make just that dotted line. So one last time, we're going to go up. And then when we go back down, we're literally going to go back down. Okay, and so our next stitch is going to be the whip stitch, which is a little bit hard to see with the way that the stitches have been configured. That's this bottom line here. And the whip stitch is going to be used more for seaming and protecting the edges of the fabric from fraying. It's not necessarily going to be seen as much in embroidery because you can't do it as well on flat fabric than on the edge. So the way that you do this is you're going to try and keep your thread in the back of the working fabric as much as you can, and you're just going to go up. And you're not going down at any point. It's just wrapping around or whipping it around and going back up. Around, back up. And the whip stitch is great for protecting your ends. It's very easy. It's one of the first ones you learn along with the running stitch. The only thing is you can kind of notice it puckers the fabric. So I used to mend a lot of my clothes with just the whip stitch. I think a lot of people do. But since it does pucker the fabric, the other side of the seam is going to look a little squished together. It's not going to be as neat as the other options. So I would recommend doing a running or a back stitch and then doing this over it just to protect the ends of the fabric from fraying. Now, if you want to protect the ends, you don't want to do a back stitch or a running stitch, but you do want it to look nice, you can also try the blanket stitch, which obviously is used on a lot of blankets. And the way you do this is you are just going to go up, and it's going to be just like the whip stitch where you're just pulling and pulling, but then you're going to leave this loop here, and you're going to put the needle through the loop, and you are going to pull until it kind of makes like 3 sides of a box. So you're going to go up, catch that loop, needle through, and pull. And the only problem with blanket stitch is you can pull it a little bit tightly and it'll look a lot like the whip stitch. So make sure you are being gentle as you do this, that you are letting the loop that you've caught stay just kind of gently on top of the fabric. And let's try one more time. We go up, we catch the loop, we caught it last second here, put the needle through, and pull gently. And there you have it. That's how you have those 4 stitches. If you do use these for any project, we'd love to see them. We are EVPL Library with 1L across all platforms. Make sure to follow us on social media, show us your projects. We'd love to see them. We hope you are safe and well, and you have a great day.